morning, everybody, and welcome to CEO Chat. My name, as always, is Al C. And you?
I'm Joe Osmendi.
You are. It's so good to see you. It's always a pleasure working with you.
You too.
We have a whole bunch of great guests from a very unique, very established, very interesting company called Consulting Engineers and Scientists. Paul Goldberg is the founder and the president, okay? And Ron Cohen is one of the engineers. You're a
engineer, vice president.
Vice president.
Wow, that's
civil engineer.
So real quick for our audience, I know what we're really trying to do is make connections with people who are in the law profession for the most part.
Yes.
You guys are expert witnesses, essentially, and you do research into terrible things that can happen to try to find out exactly what the root cause was. Do I have that right?
That's correct. Determine how and why accidents happen.
And accidents could be railroad accidents, airplane accidents, I mean, or automobile accidents, I guess?
Or?
Premises liability, slips, falls,
Slips and
trips,
falls, that kind of thing?
structural failures, mechanical, we get into gas fires, plumbing issues, HVAC,
Wow.
biomechanics, biomedical. But I think the important thing is we do a lot of specialty areas, things like toxicology, industrial hygiene, exercise equipment.
Oh, really?
Firearms, use of force. So we really cover a wide variety, which is very beneficial to our clients because a lot of cases start in one area, they move to another. We start out with, was a hazard present, and then we're looking at how did the injury occur, and we have the ability to make those moves.
Wow, that's great. Now, plaintiffs and defendants both?
Pretty
Yes.
much evenly split in the company.
Yeah, really. I mean,
Plaintiff
it's
and
whoever,
defense
you could be
work.
retained by an attorney on either side of the
Or an
the
insurance
courtroom.
company. You also
Or
work
an
with
insurance
them.
company.
Yes,
You
that's
also
correct.
you also handle cases like that too.
Yes.
Now, Joe, about a month ago, I had an opportunity to go visit these guys, and they have an office in Malvern, very large office, and you've also got an office in New Jersey. We'll talk about in a minute. But let's start with the office in Malvern. That's your home. You own this building. Maybe we can bring up the pictures. That's the building. That's your office in Malvern. How long have you been there?
Since 1998.
Since '98. But the company is how old?
The company actually, the sole proprietorship was 1969. And in 1980, formed a corporation, and that's where it started to grow.
Okay.
For more than myself.
Oh, great. And getting the word out on what you do is kind of something we want to help you with, because what you do is so unique and so detail-oriented and so exacting, and so, I mean, that's the whole engineering and scientist part of the name of the company. But you've also got, Paul, you have a quirky side. So let's go to the next picture. I had a chance to visit. You have a couple of conference rooms, and you have collectible. It's like visiting a museum, Jim.
Really?
Oh, really? What do? You collect all kinds of memorabilia.
Well, yes, I collected it, and my wife told me, we're not turning our house into a museum, so if you want to keep all this stuff, it has to be out of here. So that was the reason for the thing started to grow in the office.
Well,
but I collect O-gauge trains. I grew up with trains, and I remember steam trains when I was a little boy, and steam trains and diesels and things like that. Aircraft because of World War II, collections of all kinds of, there's all kinds of photos in there that I've collected. But because World War II occurred when I was a little boy, I was very interested in aircraft from World War II. Personally, I've collected World War II weapons, guns, and things like that. They're not on display or anything like that.
Right.
But a lot of that is, and
Yes.
I just think your conference rooms are a real showplace, and that's so there are a whole bunch of reasons to come and visit you guys, including the fact that you've got so many interesting things to look at. But the larger story here is what you actually do for a living at CES, and to me anyway, the impressive thing is you take a story and you work it back detail by detail. Maybe we can show the next picture. It's another conference room, a smaller collection of memorabilia. But the next picture is, I think, the lab area. Talk about what you do in the lab area.
The laboratory is used for photographically documenting things that we get in evidence that comes in. It depends. It used to be used for metallurgical examinations, but now there are companies that are outside of us that do a more efficient job of doing some of the legwork. So we will go to a third party and we will watch the metallurgical, under our supervision, metallurgical work being done there.
Being done there. But
Yes.
but product liability and other issues, these are things you could relate to, you could work with directly
Yes.
in your
We
lab.
do.
And
Yeah,
that's
we'll see things taken apart there, dismantled, or running tests. Find out how much force it takes to break something. So those tests are run there.
and every one of those elements is meticulously measured, carefully analyzed. I mean, that's really what you do. You don't miss a trick when it comes to getting to the bottom of these things.
And we document it.
Yeah, and
That's the
by
most
the way,
important
that's the
thing.
next picture. You document it. You've got a large evidence locker. I know we've kind of carefully selected this picture so we're not telling anybody anything. It's very proprietary, confidential. But you maintain meticulous records on every study you do,
Yes.
and you don't miss any details.
And we keep the evidence. We store the evidence.
For how long?
For as long as the case is.
Okay.
And the case can go a couple of years. And then what we do is, when the case is over, we get permission from the various people who own the evidence. The evidence does not belong to us. And then we dispose of it.
Okay.
In the way that it should be disposed
In a way
of.
that they could be returning it to them, or it could be just
Exactly.
discarding it in a way that you know is confidential
Yes.
and safe.
You know, a lot of times you're talking about large parts like furnaces or refrigerators that may be involved in fires. We then have to dispose of that, you know, to properly, so that it's just not thrown off the back of a truck.
No, that's great.
So that's what we do. But we keep evidence. These are evidence dealing with things that we've looked at and examined.
Okay, great. And maybe you can give us an example of a big case that you've worked on?
Well, I used to work a lot of, now I don't do it anymore. We used to work on aircraft parts. We'd have aircraft parts that were from an aircraft accident, parts that came in that were suspected as being the culprit or the cause of the accident, and we determined that. So we'd have aircraft parts that are some of the big cases. We did the, I'm trying to think of the name of the case, the Sioux City, Iowa case. That was many, many years ago, where the aircraft came in and they...
That's a famous video of a plane
famous video.
cartwheeling down the runway.
Well, what happened is that they lost all hydraulic power because, as it turned out, the analysis was a titanium fan actually disintegrated and cut all the hydraulic lines in the process of doing that. So they lost all control of the aircraft. So the pilots brought the aircraft in under just engine power.
Just engine power.
And this was the most skillful American pilot behavior and training and demonstration of skill that I've ever seen.
It was a terrible accident, but it was a great example of
That's
how a
right.
pilot can
Exactly.
rescue a really bad situation.
They almost saved everybody, but at the last moment, the wind blew a wingtip down, which caught, hence the cartwheel occurred.
Wow.
And the aircraft was...
Otherwise, it could have been a safe landing.
It would have been, everybody would have survived. This way, a number of people lost their lives.
Well,
in this.
but a lot of people survived, and that was pretty impossible just looking at the footage. I remember
So
that.
that aircraft is one. There's automotive parts in there. There's parts, from, I said before, from fires, that what was the cause of the fire. And we have those parts and things like that.
Okay.
So those are cases. All the safety equipment has failed, where it was alleged that this person fell from a tree because the engaging hook was defective. Turned out not to be the case,
Turned
in
out
our
not to be
opinion.
defective.
That he fell from the tree because he wasn't properly tied, and things like tied off to the tree and things like that. So we get all, the thing that the variety of materials and cases that we look at is extensive.
Okay. And when something like this happens, you get called in, you visit the scene, I guess, and do you gather the evidence, or is the evidence sent to you after?
It depends. It depends
Okay.
on what it is. On an aircraft, when an aircraft accident occurs, the aircraft is, of course, the property of the airline, and the NTSB, who is the government investigating agency, has jurisdiction over something like that. They determine where that is going to be taken. It could be taken to the laboratories in Washington, D.C. After they look at it, after everything's through, then the individual parties who represent the people in the lawsuit, plaintiffs and defendants, then have an opportunity with their experts to look at it at the laboratories that are selected by the government and everybody else.
Okay, great.
But it's all done, it's done absolutely documented, and we go out to the sites on automotive accidents. Ron can give you more information for premises, for building collapses and roof collapses. We go out to the sites. If there's something to see, we ask to see it, because that's part of the evidence as to figuring out how something happened and why.
Okay, great. Now, how many people work for CES?
We have 16 or 17 full-time people and about a 6 or 7 part-time people.
Wow, big firm. And
Yeah, well,
your
it's-
clients could be anywhere, not just in the tri-state Philadelphia area, but anywhere in the country, I guess,
Yes.
theoretically. So,
Well, you can,
Well, most of our work's in this tri-state area, but we have specialties that will take us anywhere in the country, sometimes out of the country.
really interesting. And Ron, I think in a prior conversation, it sounded to me like you specialize in structural failures, building failures.
A lot of my background, and another one of my coworkers, we have a heavy structural background. We've worked in building failures. We've worked in collapses during construction.
Okay.
And that works like we said earlier, half plaintiff, half defense. Sometimes we're defending somebody. And each case is different. It's very interesting.
And
How do you
there-
get your clients?
Clients are repeat business a lot of times. Word of mouth, listservs, they call them, where our name's on there and we're recommended. And we do marketing. We go out and shake hands and remind people we're around.
CEO chat.
There you go.
That's
Don't forget that.
That's
That's
right.
right. We're
I mean,
here.
and you know, I mean, we interview lots of people in lots of interesting fields, but you're unique in this particular area, and your unique expertise, I think, really says a lot for how you've grown the company over the years and how successful you've been. I think that's terrific. So we need to take a break. When we come back, we'll change things up a little bit, and we'll run a slideshow of more of the tour of CES in Malvern during this break. We'll be back in just a minute.
Stick around.
Shelter dogs aren't broken. They've simply experienced more life. If they were human, we would call them wise. They would be the ones with tales to tell and stories to write. The ones dealt a bad hand who responded with courage. Do not pity a shelter dog. Adopt one.
Say we've got grit, and we'll take it as a compliment. Because it's our uncommon drive, our spark within, that brings us together and sets us apart. We are temple made. And when others take shortcuts, when others take breaks, when others take the easy way, we take charge.
Add us on social media to watch bloopers, behind-the-scenes footage, previews, and more.
I work 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. So when I'm off the clock, I gotta get stuff done. So when I need a snack, I need something healthy, tasty, and easy to eat. Like wonderful pistachios without the shells. They're protein-powered, delicious, and great on the go. And that's perfect for me. Thanks, Liz. A woman without a lot of time.
Whether you're a gourmet cook or just want to eat like one, visit Rostelli Market Fresh, your home for the freshest, locally sourced ingredients to please everyone who loves great food. Our organic meats, quality seafood, and free-range poultry are cut fresh to order. Chefs create culinary-inspired prep foods made fresh every day, which pair nicely with our vast selection of fine wines and spirits. Choose from handmade pastas, artisan cheeses, organic produce, and grocery items, all from the finest purveyors. Rostelli Market Fresh, from our family to yours.
RVN TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great...
Welcome back to CEO Chat. My name is Al Cini.
I'm Joe Asmendi.
And Paul Goldberg and Michael Goldberg. We now are joined by the next generation of CES. And by the way, I was just looking at the slideshow that we walked through during the break, and visiting your office is like it's like a day at the Franklin Institute. I have to say, there are a lot of reasons why people ought to call you, obviously for your specialty, but a visit to Malvern just to take a walk through the offices and sit in a couple of conference rooms, it's a great day, it really is. There are a lot of reasons to call you guys.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
But now that we're back after the break and we're talking about maybe a transition and evolution of the company, maybe you can characterize that. What direction is that heading in? You mentioned you're working part-time now?
Yes, I am working part-time now, and Ron is taking over a lot of the functions, a lot of the things that I did. And eventually, look, I'm 81 years old. I mean, I am not going to work forever. Great. Why, thank you.
Yeah.
And so it'll be Ron, and Michael will be back. Michael will be the future.
Michael is the
and
future.
Ron is the immediate future right now.
Now, the future of the company includes continuing to do what you do.
For
yeah, sure, absolutely.
As long as we have the environment with the law and everything else that allows us to do that.
Yeah. So the forensic engineering and scientific work continues at CES. That's very important.
That's right.
But you're also going through a kind of a transition, an area that you're trying to explore, Michael. Maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah, my background, I am a certified industrial hygienist and a certified safety professional. So through the years, of course, I've been influenced by the engineering world.
Right.
And I was, I wouldn't say pushed, but that's what I knew because I grew up going on inspections when I was little with him. Even when he was a sole practitioner, he would take me on, sometimes he had to do a Saturday inspection, and I would go with him, and I thought it was fascinating. And then when I went through school, or prior to that, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so I just figured when I got out of high school, I'd go into the engineering world. And it wasn't what I was interested in. It took me time to figure out what I wanted. And I was a bartender for a while, working in the city of Philadelphia.
We had that discussion.
And then from there, I got wind of a program that was starting from Temple University at Hahnemann University at the time, which was then Drexel, and unfortunately now it's not there. But in that program was called Occupational Environmental Health and Safety, and it was the world of industrial hygiene, which industrial hygiene is an interesting world of safety. It was founded during the Industrial Revolution when people were working, coming home sick, and the question started to be asked, well, what do you do for a living? So that really fascinated me, and I got into that world. I worked in engineering firms out of college. So when I got my degree, I started in an engineering consulting group that would go out, and we got a big contract with the United States Air Force Base, and we went throughout Europe, Germany, and Italy, and we evaluated all the health and safety processes, evaluations for what was going on in the Air Force bases. So from Humvee spray painting to aircraft assembly and the chemicals they used to take things apart and clean them. And I got a chance to basically look at all the things that they were doing improperly and that were OSHA violations. Even though the government doesn't really mandate itself, they still have to follow the rules. They just don't get fines slapped on them. So I got into that world, and from that I got a job working at Temple University, and I also there fulfilled my master's degree because they had a great industrial hygiene and environmental health program. So working in a university and then the healthcare and hospital settings, because Temple owns a huge, vast health system. I worked there for many years and then moved on to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, where I worked there for about 12 years as an industrial hygiene manager and safety specialist. And that was really, a hospital is a world unto its own.
Sure.
And it was a whole, from plant safety to everything that affected, to construction safety, everything that affected the patients and patient care, from infectious waste to chemical exposures, to machine guarding from the carpentry and the plumbers and everybody and all the trades. That all fell under my belt, from walking surface safety, premise liability. So over the years of fine-tuning all that, then my father and Ron came to me and asked me if I wanted to be a part of consulting engineers because they were getting cases here and there, but the engineers couldn't handle the industrial hygiene cases because they didn't have that background.
You didn't have that background, so you
So-
provided that element.
Exactly.
That's
So
great.
I've brought that in. I came in, and now that is a new discipline at consulting engineers and scientists. It's not new now, it's been there for about 4 years, but I'm still growing that practice.
Oh, that's great.
I am getting more and more cases in that area. I still also am part of the premise liability group, so I do walking surface safety. And stair safety, and anything to do with safety, because as a safety professional, from the industrial hygiene aspect, which is chemicals and noise, and medical and healthcare processes and safety procedures, there's that side. Then the certified safety professional is more on the engineering. So there's the premise liability, there's the slip and falls, there's also construction safety, general workplace safety. So I'm handling a lot of that, and I'm working with the groups, we're growing the disciplines that we have now. We want to expand that aspect. We just, as we heard earlier, opened up an office in this area in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And then what I also am doing is starting a division which has been started called Consulting Sciences. And within the consulting science aspect is the traditional safety that I started at, working in the hospitals and working in like an engineering consulting firm. So that would be cases helping people figure out if they, from an indoor air quality assessment they need in their building.
Right.
Also, if a company that's been around, even some mom and pop type chemical company, they need someone to come in and help them get their OSHA programs up to par.
Okay.
So I'm trying to build that, or I am working on growing and building that as well.
Sure.
But also, as a whole, we want to grow the disciplines of the forensic side as well.
Well, as you're talking about that, I know from research that I've done that patient safety is one of the biggest key performance indicators for any healthcare organization.
Correct.
And one of the most expensive areas of liability. Preventing problems, understanding what it is in my environment that I can change in order to make sure that I'm safe. I mean, those things are all part of the new specialty I think you say you're crafting. So connecting us back to our audience, if you're an attorney and you're dealing with a casualty or liability issue, or if you're an insurance company, you want to call CES for the forensic work that you do. And if you're a hospital, who in a hospital would you like to hear from?
Well, yeah, so I have actually gotten called from my old employer to come in. Sometimes they're either too busy or they want a third party or third set of eyes to come in and evaluate their something that they need, like a noise assessment, to make sure that a process that they're working with is OSHA compliant, and also that they're protecting their employees and their work environment, and also if that affects patient care and patient handling. So it's a fine line. Sometimes an attorney would need a nurse for a medical aspect or a doctor, but from a patient safe handling, somebody hurt their back, whether it was an employee, they would then, somebody like me, like in the state of New Jersey, one of the few states in the country that actually has a law to protect healthcare workers for patient handling. Even from EMTs and paramedics, they have to be provided with proper equipment to be able to move patients from place to place without getting any injuries. So we get involved with cases like that. Now I can handle that. I also work with our biomedical or biomechanical engineer. He can also do the ergonomic aspect of it with me. We can look at how the injury occurred. I can look at how it was handled. And you can do that from a defense and plaintiff side as well. And again, I can also work with a organization if they need assistance in building that program within their healthcare organization.
Great. So where do you see all this headed? I know the firm is 1968, I think you said. It's been around for a long time. Where do you see all this headed over the, let's say, next 10 or 15 years? How's the industry evolving?
Well, we do have competition, of course. I'd like to see our group grow more. I'd like to see more people with discipline, the other disciplines come in, even within the same discipline, to grow more of the premise liability. So I think it was, things change as time changes. And different areas, things get safer, other things shift. So when things are handled after having lawsuits over and over again, things shift, and then there's other areas to be focused on. And we have to move with the times. But I would like to see our organization have more engineers and scientists. I'd like to grow the safety and the industrial hygiene side to get more casework and bring in, attorneys who need more assistance. There's plenty of toxic tort out there. I just want to get us out there because there's not a ton of industrial hygienists in the world. There's total, last I checked, 10,000 total, but out of them, about 6,500 are actually in practice.
Really?
A lot have retired.
That's in the world, isn't it?
That's internationally.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So I get calls from California. I get calls from all over. Some people, like, I've been searching for a CIH to be able to come in and assist me. So there's work out there for it. And as I said earlier, I also want work for everybody else.
Sure, for everybody else.
But I do want to, I see that there is a lot of potential for my area of expertise. And there's also more growth for biomedical, biomechanical, also mechanical, and construction safety as well. And we have people to handle that, and I'd like to see that grow more. I like to expand, even if we were to have another building and move to different states, like we've already done New Jersey.
Yeah.
I think that we have a huge growth opportunity
That's great.
to expand the building. And I have two sons, one of them who, he likes that engineering aspect. I have an older son who keeps talking, he wants to be a zoologist. Who knows? Maybe the biology world.
Maybe biology world.
We could use that
potentially
with
a
something.
third
Yeah.
generation of CES and
Exactly. If
yeah,
they
that's
were
great.
interested and want that, I would love them to be involved.
That'd be great.
But of course, that's way down the line.
No, but
in
not-
the near future,
Ask your father, not that far down the
Right,
line.
it's true.
It looks like it's a long way from your perspective, but when you get there,
No, I
it's
mean, my
actually a
son
blink.
is now 12, and my youngest is going to be 9, and I can't believe, I was looking at pictures the other day, and
That's great.
I can't believe that they were just little infants not that long ago.
We
And
hope
now,
we're around to interview them too. That's what
I
I'm
would
saying.
like to be sitting in that chair with my children
Oh,
sitting
yeah.
on this.
That'd be great. And we'll be there. I don't know what condition we'll be in. But Paul, real quick, I know at some point you're going to be looking pretty soon, you're going to be looking in the camera telling everybody how to reach you. And there are a million reasons to call you. But before that, real quick, you love what you do?
I do. I started it, I created it. It is definitely my life's work, and I have attachment to it. I do love working part-time because I need structured time at some part of my life. I don't do well with unstructured time. So, but I'm absolutely willing to pass the baton.
And yet, keeping your hand in is
keeping my hand in it
a way
because
to keep structure.
it's stimulating. I have seen people who retired, and that's where they stop growing at the point of retirement, and I don't want to be there. The world is big. The world is the engineering, scientific world is. I'd like to see our everything that Michael said. Absolutely support.
Oh, that's great. That's
So
exciting.
that's where I would like to see it go
Well,
down.
listen, the passion for the work you do comes through in everything that Ron has said and that you've said and that Michael has said today. And it's really, there are a whole bunch of reasons why people ought to call you if you're an attorney, if you're in the healthcare business and you're concerned about patient safety. If you're an insurance company, there are a whole bunch of reasons to call you. Go ahead and look in your camera and tell everybody how to do that. It's the one on the left. There we go.
So one real quick thing I'd like to add is that I did talk about growing. We are actually growing as we talk. So as we've expanded to New Jersey. So with that said, you can reach us at ces-experts.com. And you can also call our main number at 610-296-2250. You can ask to speak with Ron, Paul, Michael, or our marketing manager, Amy Tyson.
It's great episode of CEO Chat with very interesting guests in a very unique field.
Thank you.
As always, a pleasure talking with you, gentlemen. Michael,
Thank you for
Thanks
the
for
time.
thanks for joining us today. Paul, great
thank
seeing
you.
you again.
Paul,
Good.
good to see you guys.
And thanks all of you for joining us today on CEO Chat. We'll be back with another CEO Chat next week. Until then, who are you?
I'm Joe Osmendi.
And I'm Al Cini.
Well, once again.
we learn so much in every episode. This
Absolutely.
was definitely no exception. Thanks very much.
See you.